Hey yo, what is up my oldies? It's your boy Warmonger here. Welcome to a 5-year anniversary special. So, video, I'm going to showcase hero, Max, no, out of stamina, throws out of stamina pair. Total of 29 heroes to go over. This as of season 20. Yes, sir. So, without ado, let's start off with Warden. Start off with the Warden. Alright. Now, from any guard, and throw it aside, top light, and top it for 42 damage. But also, you can do the zone attack and then top heavy for 45 damage. But it consumes a lot of stamina. But speed from top, or also side of it will also do less damage. Now, when you parry your opponent out of stamina, yeah, it's basically the same. Someone top heavy for 40, also consumes stamina. Alternatively, light top heavy. But this, some people like to do this, but not enough damage to count. So basically, just go for this. And that concludes the Warden. Now it's time to move on to the Conqueror. Also, quick tip: if you change guard after your throw, it will sometimes not let you get your punishes pull off. So you must be from the same guard as you as your throw. So from any guard, so throw sideways and then two heavies for top heavies for 51 damage. So it goes with the side heavies, but it does 2 less damage. Now when you parry your opponent, so basically, light and heavy for 49 damage, 39 damage. Any guard doesn't matter, so it's basically anywhere. And that concludes Conqueror. Time for the Peacekeeper. Any guard from any guard position, guard break, 2 bleeds, and back throw, and top heavy into bleed for a lot of damage. It could. Now, when you parry your opponent, we forward it and light heavy into bleed for a total of this does 35 damage plus bleed. And this does 21 damage plus bleed. And that concludes Peacekeeper. Now it's time to move on to the Lawbringer. From any guard, throw the opponent forwards, and then it's heavy, heavy, and light. This does a total of 66 damage. From top, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It has to be from the side forwards, or else if you throw the side, the light will be blocked. This does a total of 66 damage. Another thing you can do is heavy, not that, heavy into pole arm, and then heavy. This is particularly useful for ganking. Now when you parry your opponent, light, heavy, zone, long arm, and then side of it. Long arm, zone, long arm, into heavy. So also useful for ganking. That concludes the Lawbringer. That's time for the Centurion. Now for me, guard break, and back throw and do eagle's tail, and this does a total of 45 damage if you have haymaker. Alternatively, you can do this. It does more damage, which does slightly bit more damage. It does a total of 49 damage. So pommel, back throw, kick, into heavy, unblockable heavy for 49 damage. Now this one is a bit tough. This is his outer parry is a bit complicated. It's a bit complicated. If I can pull this off. If the timing must be perfect, or else you just do an eagle's tail, and either way, just light and charge, or you could just do this. Hold on. You could do that, or do heavies. Or two heavies, If I can pull this off, hold on. Or you can do this for 53 damage. This must be in timing. You have to unlock as you parry, and then heavy, and then charge punch, and then Eagle's Talon for 53 damage. Or just go for light and heavy for 37 damage. And that concludes the Centurion. Let's move on to the Gladiator. Now, from any guard, throw your opponent backwards. Skewer, light, heavy. No, wait. Any guard, throw your opponent backwards. Side dodge whiff and skewer, and then heavy, heavy. This does 53 damage plus bleed. Showcase you again, in case. This does 55 damage plus a lot of bleed. Now when you parry your opponent, dodge forward, light whiff, and then skewer, and then dodge forward, light whiff. No, wait. Dodge forward, light whiff. Hold on. Okay, come on, come over here. No, dodge forward, light whiff, skewer, then heavy, heavy. It's basically the same thing. You can also access this by deflect. You can also do this with a deflect. And that concludes the Gladiator. Now it's time for the Blackberry. From a guard, throw your opponent in the direction. Light, heavy for 40 damage. Now, when you parry your opponent, dodge forward heavy into heavy for 48 damage. And that concludes the Blackberry. Time for the Warmonger. Now for any guard, throw your opponent in any direction, zone, top heavy for 45 damage. This consumes a lot of stamina. Alternatively, you can do light, heavy. That does 1 less damage. When you parry your opponent, does the same thing. Hit zone heavy for consumes stamina. So basically light, heavy. She can also do this, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. But does a lot of bleed. That special does 10 damage plus a total of 20 bleed. So basically just go for this instead of do the thing. And that concludes the Warmonger. Now it's time to go for the last of the knights, Griffin. Okay. For mini guard. Hold on. For mini guard. Dodge for light and kick heavy. Does 38 damage. Alternatively, you can just do this. But it also does 38 damage. But 38 damage plus it can execute. Also, it does the same thing with Centurion's opponent as executes. Now, when you parry opponent, zone, light, heavy, kick into heavy, it does a total of 52 damage. Also does execute. And that concludes the Griffin. And that concludes the Knights. Now let's move on to Vikings, starting off with the Raider. He got some big nerfs throughout the season, so damage just won't be the same like it used to be. Now, from any guard, the guard stun tap. Yeah, do a stun tap. Stun tap in the zone for 47 damage. It's also unsafe. You can easily guard broken. Alternatively, you could go for a stun tap at the top heavy, and then you can mix it up. But when you're up against the wall, you can basically do heavy into zone for 56 damage. But also can do the same thing with top heavy into zone for 59 damage. Now when you parry your opponent, basically just stun tap into zone for 47 damage. It's also unsafe. Basically, alternatively, if you can do stun tap into another heavy. That concludes the Raider. Moving on to the Warlord. And in case you were wondering, this doesn't knock down enemies anymore. So from side guard you could be. Let's see. Oh, top guard, it's top heavy and side heavy for 59 damage. From side guard, side guard, you can do 4 dodge heavy into headbutt into light for 39 damage. Alternatively, you can do light into side heavy for 41 damage. It's in your opinion. Now, when you parry your opponent, top light into side heavy for 41 damage. Or the direction, basically direction, it doesn't matter. Just go as you want, and that concludes the Warlord. Now let's move on to the Berserker. From side guard break into side dodge, heavy. Side guard, side dodge, side throw, 2 hit side heavies for 50 damage, or side heavy into top heavy for 55 damage. Alternatively, you can do this, and that ends your combo, but do this, it continues to come in, it also does 50 damage. When you pair opponent, basically do this, but you have to time it, or else you won't get the knockdown. Alternatively, you can do 4 dodge light, heavy, light for a total of 50 damage. But sadly, this does two less damage. And that concludes the Berserker. Time to move on to the Valkyrie. From any guard, throw your opponent direction, top light, sweep into a heavy. That does 51 damage. Again, 4 dodge light, side light, sweep, heavy. That does a total of 55 damage. Showcase it again. Same thing when you parry your opponent. 4 dodge lights, side light, sweep into heavy. That does a total of 55 damage. That concludes the Valkyrie. Now let's move on to the Highlander. from any guard. 4 dodge throw, heavy, and light, heavy. That does a total of 42 damage. Alternatively, you can do light into offensive status and heavy. That does also 42 damage. It basically do mix-ups. Same thing with parries, light, heavy, or light, or offensive stance heavy. 42 damage. That concludes Highlander. Now let's move on to the Shaman. Now, any guard, when your opponent's not bleeding, throw it to the side. Hold on. Right heavy again, and top bleed for 41 damage plus bleed. But when your opponent's bleeding, throw him forwards. Right heavy and right heavy fade dodges backwards, and then there's mercy. That's a total of 50 damage. Showcase again. In case if you don't believe me, here you go. There we go. So basically bleed when your opponent's bleeding. Right heavy, fade dodging backwards, and then Predator's Mercy. That's a total of 50 damage. Now, when your opponent's bleeding, that's not right. I'm messing up. When you pair your opponent, side dodge heavy and do right heavy for 42 damage. Alternatively, you can do this, but it doesn't. The top plate won't connect. Or else you can do this. Nope. That doesn't work. Okay. Right dodge heavy, top heavy, gets you backwards heavy, back dodge into backwards, and then Murderous Mercy. It's a total of 47 damage. That concludes the Shaman. Now let's move on to the gander. Quick tip about gander: some of his punishes only work when his opponent's out of stamina. Doesn't work when he's in. Some of them don't work when he's in revenge. When your opponent has stamina. From any guard. Guard. Hold on. This one requires timing. So basically. side, basically. Hold on. Basically, throw your dodge the opponent sideways. With this, and then heavy, and do have a hammer slam that does a total of 57 damage. But alternatively, you could just go for the hammer slam. Alternatively, you can just go for hammer slam when you're in revenge, and your opponent has stamina. When you parry your opponent, it's depending where you parry. When you parry the right. Hold on. No, wait. Parry to the left, dodge left, light whipped into heavy into the hammer slam. Does 57 damage. Now here's where things go crazy. Now here's where things go really crazy. If I get him close to the wall, that is. No, wait, that's not right. Wait, I changed guard. Hold on. God damn it, I can't even... Hold on. Basically, light whip. No, wait, that's not right. Nope, that ain't it. Damn it. Hold on. God damn it. How is that close? Come on. Come on. What are you doing? Light whip, it's too heavy. No, wait, that's not right either. What the f— oh my god. Hold on. Oh, light whip, so basically, dodge, light whip, heavy, heavy, light, punch, into a hammer slam that does a total of 80 damage. This also only works when your opponent is close to the wall. Let me showcase it again if I can. Showcase again, in case. Like this, 80 damage. But also, no, wait, that's... Okay, so basically, if you do it from the top, it's just 68 damage. But from side, that's only like 67 damage. And that concludes the Warmonger, and that concludes the Vikings. And now let's start off with the samurai, starting off with the kensei. from a guard break, four dodge into 4 dodge light into top heavy for 48 damage. This is unsafe that you could get guard broken. Alternatively, you could go for top light into heavy for basically do a light that continues the combo, so you won't get guard broken. Now, when you parry your opponent, it's basically the same thing. 4 dodge light into top heavy for 48 damage. This is also unsafe. Alternatively, you could go for light into heavy for 44 damage. That concludes the kensei. Now move on to shigoki. Okay, and now for ready guard, throw your opponent in direction. Hold on. Throw your opponent in direction. Light into top heavy for 44 damage. Showcase again. And 44 damage also can execute. Also, you can. Some people say do this, but sadly, hold on. It does not work anymore. So that is gone. So when you parry an opponent in zone, and then top heavy for 46 damage. Another cool punish. Hold on one moment. No wait, that's not right. Another cool punish when you do the demon ball, and then do the heavy and. And basically, it only works when your opponent is close to the wall. Showcase you again. If I can. God damn it. Oh, it'd be safe way and also do a light. But the heavy does not. You try to do heavy, but it doesn't work. If that does a total of 38 damage and concludes the shigoki. Time to move on to the roachie. Now from top guard, throw your opponent side and do 2 top heavies for a total of 54 damage. if you're from side guard, throw your opponent, and then unlock. Does 54 damage. Ooh. Now, when you compare your opponent, it's the same thing. Top heavy, top heavy. That's and it does 54 damage and concludes the roachie. Now moving on to the dobushi. Now from in a guard, when your opponent's not bleeding, throw him in the right direction, wait a bit, and then bleed into heavy for a total of 37 damage plus bleed. But when your opponent is bleeding, do 2 heavies for the total of 64 damage. When your opponent is bleeding, the zone into feint the zone into heavy. It does a total of 52 damage when your opponent is bleeding. But when your opponent is not bleeding, and 4 dodge. Yeah, 4 dodge light bleed into heavy. That's 38 damage plus bleed. And that includes the dobushi. Now let's move on to the hero that got reworked, the shinobi. For mid guard, guard break opponent and throw sideways, light, weight, and then heavy to light. Total of 36 damage plus chip damage. So you're wondering, hold on. So basically light. Nope. The light after heavy can be blocked, but does chip damage. Also, when you pair your opponent, same thing. Light and weight, heavy light. Also, 37 damage. Alternatively, you could just do light, heavy, but only does like 32 damage. And that concludes the shinobi. Now let's move on to the aramusha. From a guard break opponent. Throw your opponent to the left, forward or to the right. Heavy into light and heavy for 41 damage. Alternatively, you can do zone into the zone. Also does a total of 44 damage, 43 damage. The zone is actually useful for ganking, so might want to use that. So, same thing when you parry your opponent. Is zone or light heavy for a total of 43 damage. And that concludes the aramusha. Now let's move on to the kitokiri. Now, from the guard, throw your opponent forwards, and then light and charge heavy. This does 46 damage plus it connects you. Same thing with the parry punish. 46 damage plus it can execute an opponent. And that concludes the kitokiri. And now it's time for the latest hero, the kaioshin. Now from any guard, throw your opponent any direction. Zone heavy for 44 damage. Alternatively, you can do this, but it can be blocked. But some of the lights can be blocked. And when you parry your opponent, it's basically top heavy, it's another heavy for 54 damage. Basically, top heavy into another heavy for 54 damage. Basically, same as roachie. That concludes the samurai and concludes the kaioshin. Now let's move on to the last faction, the Warden, starting with the tiandi. From the guard, throw your opponent to the side, light heavy for 42 damage. Alternatively, you can do the heavy light, but it does 39 only does 39 damage. Or zone. Same thing with the parry punish, light heavy for 42 damage. And that concludes the tiandi. Now let's move on to the janju. Okay, guard. Throw opponent forwards. Heavy for 56 damage. Same thing with side. but doesn't work with the side heavies. It does work with side heavies. It does 59 damage. But this punish doesn't work. It does work for 59 damage. It can basically go throw anywhere. In case you're wondering. You can do this, but it does less damage. When you parry your opponent. But it doesn't do this. But intuitively, the choke and punishes no longer work. Alternatively, you can do zone into top heavy for 48 damage. They changed the choke, so you can't get anything off of the punish anymore. So, and that concludes the janju. Now moving on to nukia. Any guard. Throw your opponent in any direction. Hold on. Oh, wait. Hold on 1 sec. No, break. Throw your opponent in any direction other than forwards, and then light, heavy, light. Total of 49 damage. When you parry your opponent, special heavy, special light, and heavy, light. It does a total of 52 damage. Another cool punish she could do, but you have to do an alternate guard. But okay, it doesn't work. By the looks of it, there used to be this punish, but somehow it doesn't work anymore. So basically, do this for the parry out of stamina. Hold on 1 sec. Give me 1 moment. But you have to change the set of directions. Hold on. Let me give you a moment. Give me a minute. God damn it. Hold on. This is a complicated punish for nukia. Yeah, does total of 63 damage. in case you wondered, the light is not fast enough for the punish. Basically, do that, and that concludes the nukia. Now let's move on to the shaolin. So opponent. So opponent. And direction, light, heavy, light for 48 damage. Same thing with the parry punishes. Also, we can do light. Hold on. Also, we can do light and kikens and blockable heavy for 44 damage. Sad. So basically, do this light, heavy, light, and that concludes the shaolin. Time for the last hero of the roster and conclude the Woolen. And to conclude the Woolen, the Zanhu. When you any guard break opponent, throw it aside, heavy for 56 damage. When you parry opponent, zone heavy 46 damage. And that concludes the Wulin and the Zanhu. And that concludes the roster. And that's all the heroes that with max punches. I hope you find it useful to the battlefield. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, favorite, subscribe, and I love you guys. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.